Usul al-fiqh is one of the great, which is in essence, it's the philosophy of legislation in the Islamic tradition. Much of the Qur'an and the hadith is in fact closer to what we would call constitutional law in the West. It's not statute law. The Prophet ﷺ gives far more constitutional expressions and legal injunctions than he ever gives cut and dry statute law. Do this, don't do that. He leaves things open. There's an immense amount of ambiguity in the hadith. This was known early on. There are very few verses of the Qur'an and hadith that are considered what is known as qat'iatil dilala, which is where the understanding of the expression is absolute, that we know exactly what it means. It often holds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 meanings, and you get all of these multiple interpretations. The other thing that's so extraordinary about our early scholars is that they were very well aware of what we would call in the West fallibilism, that they were not dictating God's law in their jurisprudence. They were dictating the mujtahid, or the individual's understanding of God's law. In fact, Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya in I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in has a chapter entitled The Prohibition of Calling a Fatwa the Ruling of God. The prohibition of calling a fatwa the ruling of God. The fatwa is a personal opinion of a mujtahid in attempting to understand the intention of a text. Moreover, the fatwa was known and understood to be specific, in many cases, to time and place. This is another aspect of fatwas that are rarely understood, even amongst people that are trained in classical Islamic education. The Hanafi school believes that the place actually affects the ruling, even though the other three schools do not in the Sunni tradition. So if you're in England, there are certain rulings that would be permissible here that might not be permissible in another place. Other scholars argue no. But these are the differences of opinion and the nuances. This is another aspect. The Muslims have always recognized diversity and difference of opinion. But we have what are called thawabit and mutaghayyirat in our Islamic tradition. The thawabit are things that do not change. They cannot be reformed. One of them is our basic understanding of God, our basic understanding of prophecy, our basic understanding of eschatology, of what happens after life. These things are fixed and eternal. They don't change with time and place. God is all-powerful, omniscient. He speaks, and he has no gender, even if we use gender language to express the divine by the limitations of language. But Muslim theologians were always clear there is no gender to God. God is neither male nor female, transcendent. So that aspect cannot change. What changes then? The changes are our understandings. But those understandings have to be based on following rigorous principles. The first and foremost is they have to be within the context of the language in which the revelation was revealed. And this is why, as opposed to living constitution, the idea that the language and the intent of the framers of the Constitution have no relevance to us today. This is a debate. This is a very important departure for the vast majority of Muslims with certain reformist movements today. The idea that somehow we can reinterpret the Qur'an in the light of 21st century language. The Qur'an was written in Arabic of the 7th century. That Arabic was preserved to a degree by which only people who really have studied this tradition understand. It is one of the great human achievements, the preservation of the Arabic language, the exact meanings of every single word that is recorded in the Qur'an, of all the words that are recorded in the hadith, and having to prove what those words mean. And on rare occasion, saying we can't ascertain the exact meaning of this word or the multiple possible meanings, like the word ib, which is in Surah Abasa. So the Muslims, jurists, traditionally believed that you could not go outside of the language. You were confined by the language. Now, the other